Welcome to the course Digital Transformation and Technological Innovation. So, we are into our third module, that is transitions in software markets. So, let us continue from where we stopped in the last session. So, our next important question that we want to focus in this session is on why would firms go for renting specifically for PaaS instead of buying IT systems. So, earlier in the previous session we covered about SaaS, software as a service. Now, we are talking about platform as a service. So, what are the regions that firms might go for renting, essentially the cloud services instead of buying IT system. That means owning everything on prem computing, right. So, some of the factors that we have discussed in case of SaaS, they are applicable here also. So, let us understand what are the offerings, what are the top offerings or the offerings from top cloud providers in case of platform as a service, right. So, that is what we start, enterprise focused PaaS, right. So, let us look at first Amazon's offerings, Amazon's AWS offerings. So, if we look at the core tool set for Amazon's offering, right. So, we can see there is Elastic Beanstalk, right. So, that is mainly an infrastructure orchestration service. That means the computing resources that that would be needed to run a particular workload, right. So, for that purpose the orchestration in terms of infra or computing resources would be handled by Elastic Beanstalk. So, that is one of the core tool set that is there in Amazon's AWS offering. Then the next core tool set is Lambda. So, what this Lambda is about? So, this is this facilitates serverless computing. So, this is serverless event driven compute service. So, this is the particular tool set or tooling that is Lambda that facilitates the actual run of the workload. So, the Elastic Beanstalk facilitates the the resources, compute resources, and the Lambda facilitates the actual execution of the workload. So, serverless and event driven. So, that kind of tool set or tooling is being provided by Amazon as part of their core tool set. Then we have App Runner. So, App Runner is essentially having container application service. So, container is a virtualization technology, and we will be talking about container later sessions also. For now, it is the main thing that we need to understand is that third important core tool set is App Runner, which is essentially responsible for running application, right. So, this is the one, App Runner is the one that will that is responsible for running applications and mainly containerized applications, right. So, this is a container application service. So, these are the three pillars of Amazon's AWS offering. First one, Elastic Beanstalk, which is for orchestration of computing resources, then Lambda, which is for runtime environment for workload, serverless event driven, and then App Runner, which is essentially provides the service for containerized application. So, these three form the core tool set. So, let us move on. Now, let us focus on the developer tool set. So, what are the additional features or additional offerings that you might get from Amazon, that you might see in Amazon's AWS offerings that might be beneficial for certain developers. Rather, Amazon is one of the main providers. So, therefore, lots of developers they would be benefiting from some of these toolkits. So, for developers Amazon AWS offers toolkit for Visual Studio, right. Then there is command line interface. So, CLI is command line interface. So, AWS CLI is there. So, for developers who are comfortable with command line interface, they can use that. Visual Studio support is there, and then that is more like ID and then command line interface, and then Cloud Formation, that is another toolkit that facilitates infrastructure as code, right. So, provisioning of computing defined by the software, right. So, Cloud Formation for IAC, infrastructure as a code. So, that toolkit is also given. So, developers can go for cloud native applications with these kind of toolkits that are supported in Amazon AWS. Then if we look at the tiers, what are the different tiers? We talked about these features, but obviously these cloud providers, they come up with their own pricing plans, and that we are referring as tiers. So different tiers essentially will be giving you different set of features. So one has to pick what is more suitable for their needs. For example, there is a basic free tier. So obviously there it won't be having all the features that are there, right. So core tool set might be there, even there even in the core tool set there might be constraints. Then developer is the second tier, then business, and then enterprise. So you can see this is more like a graded tier scheme that they have, from basic free one, which is having more restrictions, less features, then to developer a bit more, and then business, and then enterprise tier, right. And the response in terms of performance of different toolkits would be much better in case of enterprise, right. So these are the different tiers that they offer. Let us move on. Now we come to the Microsoft's Azure offerings. So let us look at what Microsoft is offering in their Azure in terms of core tool set, right. So first one again, app service. So app service is again infrastructure orchestration service, right. And so that is slightly equivalent to what we talked about Elastic Beanstalk. The role that Elastic Beanstalk is playing in case of Amazon AWS, that is orchestration of computing resources. Same thing is being done by app service of Microsoft Azure infrastructure orchestration, right. Then there are functions, right. So in Azure, so that facilitates serverless event driven compute service. So essentially the Lambda that was there in the AWS, Azure in case of Azure it is simply referred as functions. So they this particular tool set facilitates serverless event driven compute service. Then there is something called Spring Apps. So this is slightly older technology in a way. So Spring Boot application service, and that is being supported. So Spring Apps, so that is supported. So earlier in case of Amazon we talked about container application service. So containerized application are supported in case of Amazon AWS. In case of Microsoft Azure, the containerization is not supported, rather Spring Boot application service is there, but this is to be retired, right. So then Azure container apps, so it will be replaced by Spring Apps, would be in future will be replaced by Azure container apps. So essentially if we look at the core tool set, Microsoft Azure seems to be slightly behind AWS, Amazon's AWS in one important aspect, application level virtualization, containerized applications, right. So that also gives you the clear picture in terms of comparison in terms of core tool set between Microsoft Azure and Amazon AWS. Then if we look at the developer tool set, so developer tool set here you would see a deep integration with the Microsoft ecosystem. So as we have been talking about much of the offerings that we see from Microsoft. So ecosystem integration is one of the important pillars of their offering, and here also we can see the same happening, deep integration with GitHub Actions, right. So GitHub we have already talked about, that is one of the portal that is main portal for OSS projects, right. So deep integration with GitHub Actions. So one can if one is going for Microsoft Azure offering, then they might be better facilitated in terms of contributing to their open source software projects. So that ecosystem benefit is there. Then Azure DevOps tools are there, then VS Code extensions, so that is there. So these are some of the developer tool set offerings that are there from Microsoft Azure. Then if we look at the pricing plans and we look at the tiers, then basic is there, that is more like free billing, and then there is a developer, then there is a standard, and then there is a professional direct. So Microsoft also offers 4 tiers from basic. So obviously name of the tiers, labels of the tiers are different. from basic to developer to standard to professional direct. In case of Amazon AWS also we had 4 tiers there as well. So let's move on. Now next top vendor that we have is Google Cloud. So if we look at the Google Cloud main offerings there and we focus on the core tool set, so immediately should be able to notice some important differences that the both Amazon and Microsoft, they have 3 components to their core tool set. One for orchestration of computing service, one for runtime, and then another one for application, right. But here you will see that Google is having App Engine, so that facilitates serverless compute service with abstracted orchestration. So so the orchestration is already abstracted by the App Engine. So essentially you just get serverless compute service, and the rest of it is taken abstracted by the App Engine, right. So therefore in AWS maybe you can do more, you have AWS and Azure, you have more control, but here Google doesn't give you that control, but then performance might improve because it is abstracted, it might be doing it handles all that complexity, but then you have less control in terms of what you want to develop, right. So App Engine is there for serverless compute service while the orchestration is abstracted, and the second is Cloud Run. So that is serverless containerization with abstracted orchestration. So here also the orchestration that part is abstracted and the containerization is supported, serverless containerization is supported. So you can see that the difference here, that from 3 components in core toolset, in case of Amazon AWS and Microsoft Azure, we move to 2 components in the core toolset, and the first one that is orchestration is being abstracted away. So we just have the App Engine in the cloud, right. So let's move on. Let's look at what Google is offering for developers. So we look at the developer tool set, you can see built-in monitoring with cloud logging and all that. So there is a built-in monitoring support, cloud logging is there, monitoring is there, cloud build is there for CI/CD. So all that support is there, right. If we look at the tiers, the pricing plan in case of Google, then again this is also simplified. So you can see just 3 tiers here. So in case of Amazon and Azure, AWS and Azure, we saw 4 tiers, but here you can see just 3 tiers. So basic, that is free version, then enhanced and the premium, right. So 3 tiers, and core tool set is also simplified to just 2 components, and then the support you can see CI/CD support and all that. So more modern, you would see in Google more modern and more simplified outlook in terms of the tool set or the tooling that they facilitate, but then obviously that might come at the cost of losing control there, right. So let's move on. Now we look at the specialized tooling. Is there anything special, something more than what is typically needed to develop application that we earlier talked about in terms of core tool set and the developer tool set? Is there some additional feature in some of these offerings? So let's look at Amazon AWS first, and we are looking at a specialized tooling here. So ecosystem depth is an important element of Amazon's offering. So you can see this is ideal for complex large scale migrations, right. So there are about 200 featured services. So in terms of the kind of features that are being supported in Amazon AWS, that is huge. So for everyone there might be some interesting feature that they were looking for. So ideal for that aspect in terms of you're looking for more feature rich offering, then maybe Amazon AWS is way to go. So ideal for complex large scale migrations also. So if you are looking to migrate your workload, then because of the additional feature that might be there, that might be useful or relevant for an organization or developer. So so Amazon AWS can be a more viable, more ideal option in that case, right. So ecosystem depth is one. The next is generative AI development. So Amazon is providing tooling for generative AI development with these 2 features, Amazon Bedrock and Amazon Q. So these are offered that you can use if you are going for generative AI development, right. So these specialized tooling are there. Then if we look at Microsoft, then what are the specialized tooling in case of Microsoft? So one is enterprise integration, as always, because Microsoft is also in the enterprise software segment. So that integration, if you are looking to develop applications, cloud applications which are to be integrated with the enterprise, other applications of the enterprise or the organization, then Microsoft Azure, especially if those applications are actually Microsoft application, then these specialized tooling is there to facilitate that process. So enterprise integration best for .NET development with seamless hooks into Active Directory and Visual Studio. So for .NET development, much better integration you will get here in case of Azure, and Active Directory, that support is also there. Then jointly operated environment. One developer feature that we already talked about, that Microsoft offers integration into GitHub Actions. So that is why we have earlier spoken about that it has taken a stake into GitHub and it doesn't remain an open source platform as such, right, because of that. So another thing apart from the GitHub, another thing that Microsoft is doing to be aligned with the open source software development, open OSS community, that they have also provided support for containerized apps using Azure, Red Hat, OpenShift. So if you recall, in the previous slide we talked about that Amazon Azure, it is not offering containerized support as of now, right. So future the Spring apps application service supported, and in future they will have Azure container apps, but how that is being addressed, that is being addressed with the support from Red Hat's OpenShift. So they have come up with the Azure Red Hat OpenShift. They are providing supports in case someone is looking to develop containerized applications. Then this jointly operated environment, this is the option that is there as of now, right. So these are the two important specialized tooling in case of Microsoft Azure. Then if we look at the Google Cloud, and we look at the specialized tooling that are there. So one is AI and data first, and now things will make more sense that when we talked about Google Cloud's core tool set, only two components were there and things were abstracted away. Things in the sense orchestration was abstracted away. So because the specialized tooling is more AI and data first, so that makes sense that we abstract away the infrastructure and focus more on the data and AI part. So rapid deployment of data heavy AI applications, so that is much that is quite well supported in case of Google. So data heavy applications using native integration of Vertex AI and BigQuery. So these are two very popular tool set, Vertex AI and BigQuery, that is being offered by the Google Cloud. So if someone is looking for AI and data application, data heavy AI application rather, then Google might be a way to go. Someone is looking for enterprise integration, then maybe Microsoft is way to go. And then most other use cases which are quite few, Amazon is the biggest player in this segment, cloud segment. So then for all others which people who are looking for more control and other things, more support from the ecosystem, then Amazon AWS is way to go. Moving on, now we can look at the the community support, community and support. So what kind of support is there in terms of community and in terms of Amazon support coming from Amazon, right. So it is Amazon AWS is offering largest community and extensive documentation. So that means if you are stuck with something, you might get help from the community website, the community platform, and the extensive documentation that is there. So more often than not, the problem that you are facing was faced by somebody else also. So you might get that you might find that thread, and maybe the solution is there, and because it is a large community, so they might have addressed that. So you can benefit from this community platform, which is AWS re::post, right. So then best practice tool is also there, AWS trusted advisor. So it can guide in terms of for your application, cloud application, but in terms of whether you are, how much you are able to follow in terms of best practices. So then you can make changes. So that support is also there in case of Amazon. Now we look at the Microsoft Azure, and if we focus on community support for this, so they are again into collaboration with the Stack Overflow. So they don't have their own platform like Amazon's Recall and Post. Instead, Microsoft has collaboration with Stack Overflow. So they are compensated expert answers, right? So there is some compensation mechanism that they have figured out with the Stack Overflow, and if there is any query, any issue in terms of cloud application development for Microsoft Azure, then people might be more willing to answer those queries on a Stack Overflow. So that support is there. So that because of the collaboration between Microsoft and Stack Overflow. Then training platform is also there. So Microsoft Learn. So this was self-help. So in case you want to you learn how to develop apps and different aspects of it. There's so much of complexity that can be there. So you can go for training platform. So that support is coming from Microsoft, right? So these are the community and support features that are key to Microsoft Azure. Then moving on, Google Cloud. So what Google is offering in terms of community and support. So first off is that their free tier is very generous in comparison to the Amazon and Microsoft. So if you are looking to experiment with your apps and all that, so Google Cloud might be the way to go. If you are not totally sure what is going to be there in your app and you are in the experimentation phase, then Google Cloud might be the way to go because of the generous free tier that they have, right? And then what they provide, 28 instance hour per day for app engine standard. So if you go for the standard plan, then also you get this kind of 28 instance hour kind of per day kind of support there, right? So these are the offerings by Google Cloud. So again, going back to the same thing in terms of if you are looking for that recommendation remains same. If you are looking for more experimentation, data heavy application, then go for Google. If you are looking for more enterprise integration, then Microsoft, especially if you have Microsoft applications as an organization or developer, and for most other cases Amazon covers it up. Then we move on. The next one is, why would firms go for renting for infra as a service instead of buying IT infrastructure, right? So we covered SaaS and PaaS. Now we come to IaaS, so which is essentially renting for infrastructure renting in a way. So infrastructure as a service instead of buying IT infrastructure and owning it. So first we look at the Amazon AWS. So if we look at the the offerings that Amazon is having in this spaces, if we look at the core compute, so they have EC2 servers which offers 500 plus instance types, and that includes custom Graviton chips. So core compute is essentially EC2, and that is the name of their compute server, and then the primary storage is S3, right? So that is also considered the industry standard for object storage. So that is there. Then in terms of service breadth, global infrastructure, so that is there. So already we talked about that feature richness of Amazon's ecosystem and the ecosystem depth of Amazon's ecosystem. So that applies in case of IaaS also, not just PaaS. Global infrastructure, that means they have support worldwide. So these are some important things as part of their IaaS offering, right? EC2, S3, and the global infrastructure. Then we can look at Microsoft Azure. So they also have virtual machines with the scalable instances, and a strong Windows support is there, right? Because Windows is another option for operating system by Microsoft. Now if we look at the primary storage, they have something called blob storage that is for high integration with enterprise data lakes. So because one of the strength of Microsoft is because they are already into enterprise space, so that enterprise integration can be well supported by quite well supported by blob storage, right, which is known for this kind of enterprise integration. Then if we look at the service aspect of it, then hybrid environment is supported. So if someone is looking for on-prem and cloud, that hybrid environment where you are running something on-prem and you are transferring some workload to cloud. So that hybrid environment if you want to run, then again that you might go for Microsoft Azure, right. So Microsoft stacks are there and that is supported, right. So this is about Microsoft Azure for IaaS. Now we look at the Google Cloud. So in terms of core compute, compute engine, their compute engine offers a high performance VMs with per second billing. So performance is more performance oriented compute that you get with Google. So that is a plus. Then if we look at the primary storage, so cloud storage with a unified API across all storage classes. So much better API integration would be there with the storage and all that. So earlier also we talked about in case of PaaS more data heavy AI applications. If you are working on that, then Google might be better in that sense. So that is also reflected here in case of IaaS, that a better unified API across all storage classes. Service in terms of network speed, it is more favorable. So better network speed that you might get, and container native design. So if you are looking for more container native design, obviously we talked about the cloud native. Now container native, if you primarily you want to go for containerized application, then also Google might be more Google might be the main platform that you might pick, right. So this is about the IaaS. So based on this kind of features that you get that we talked about from three main cloud providers. So one can compare what they can do on-prem and what they can get from cloud, whether it's about SaaS or PaaS or IaaS, and therefore the main factors, main reasons why firms go for cloud, that becomes much more clear with these features, right. So that's what we wanted to cover in this session. So essentially what we did, we covered about why different offerings, top vendors main offerings in case of PaaS, right. So we started with the core tool set from Amazon, then we talked about developer tools that Amazon offers, then core tool set for Microsoft, then developer tool set for Microsoft. So for each case, Amazon, Microsoft and Google, we first talked about core tool set, developer tool set, then we moved on to specialized tooling that each of these main cloud vendor offerings. So essentially the kind of support that you get that you might not have on-prem, that becomes automatically clear, right. Then after that we talked about the community and support that is there in terms of AWS repost or Stack Overflow, right. And then we also talked about IaaS where the kind of compute that you get EC2 or S3, or in case of Azure you get blob storage and all that, you get support for hybrid environment. And then in case of Google Cloud you get better network speed, more container native design and better API integration for your storage classes and other high performance VMs and all that. So that completes this discussion. We will continue this module in the next session. Thank you.